Hello and welcome to my channel. I am the Mad Computer Scientist. On this channel I discuss math, computer science, and technology topics that are of interest to me. But before we get into today's topic, I would like you all to do me a favor. I want you to hit that like button and subscribe if you have not already. When you do subscribe, make sure to ring that notification bell so you will always receive the latest updates. And today I'm going to talk about some politics for a little bit. I know I don't really like to discuss politics, and I would rather not, but the thing is there have been some political topics that have crossed over into the realms of computer science, and someone not understanding what they were doing. And of course, if you have been following Doge, you probably know what I'm talking about. In this video, I'm going to discuss why we know 150-year-olds are not collecting Social Security, and how canceling unused Visual Studio Code licenses saved the United States government exactly $0. And yes, I may be derogatory and use phrases like the Qbitler youth to refer to Elon Musk's staff. I will, however, try to avoid that. I will start by addressing the issue of the unused VSCode licenses because those are easier to deal with. This is rather simple. Visual Studio Code and Visual Studio are not the same thing, and it seems that Doge and his Qbitler youth confused the two. Visual Studio is indeed commercial software, although you can use it for free for educational and open source purposes. Visual Studio Code is a simple text editor. The licensing agreement Microsoft offers for VS Code states that anyone can use it for free or commercial use without having to pay Microsoft anything. It doesn't matter how many VS Code licenses they canceled, Doge saved exactly $0 by canceling any unused VS Code licenses. Now, if there were indeed unused Visual Studio licenses that were being referred to by mistake, it is possible that some money was saved here, but it's probably not a significant amount. There is really nothing more to say about the idiocy of trying to cancel unused VS Code licenses to save money. However, the issue with the 150-year-olds collecting Social Security is a little bit harder to deal with. Part of this has to do with the language that was used for these records. COBOL, which stands for Common Business Oriented Language, was developed by a committee led by Grace Hopper in the 1950s. It was a very unpopular language to begin with, and it was demanded by bankers who didn't like the fact that they couldn't read Fortran. Over the years, it has become considerably less popular. However, there are hundreds of pieces of legacy code floating around on financial and governmental systems simply because COBOL code is really good at batch processing financial transactions. And this has led to a problem where there is actually a shortage of COBOL programmers who are under 70. It is the lack of knowledge of this programming language that becomes important when discussing why the Doge youth felt they actually had found 150-year-olds on Social Security. Most modern programming languages have some sort of built-in date type. COBOL does not. A common practice of the time was to set a date of 1875 if the date wasn't actually known. This is a bit like how old MS-DOS systems would default to a date of 1/1/1980 if the BIOS battery had gone bad. Modern Windows systems can do something similar, but the system time is often set by the internet when the computer connects, so it's less of an issue than it was in the past. The method they used for the date caused a lot of records where no date was indicated to be set to a date in 1875, thus making sure that the Doge Qbitler youth thought there were indeed 150-year-olds collecting Social Security. And I can't blame them for this too much. After all, I don't know COBOL either. I do know, however, that if a Unix system is telling me the date is January 1st, 1970, either it's a 32-bit system and we've experienced the year is 2038, or there is something wrong with how the system date was set. I wish I could tell you this type of incompetence was uncommon for Musk and his industries, but anyone who has followed his history knows that he has a habit of doing really stupid things when he gets into a new enterprise because he doesn't understand what he is doing. This does not necessarily mean he is stupid, but just that he overestimates his abilities and causes problems because he won't listen to people who are more experienced than he is. But there are plenty of other people out there who are picking on Musk for valid reasons, and this channel really isn't about politics for the most part. It's just that there are a couple of issues where the politics have crossed into the tech arena that I felt it necessary to comment on. Thank you for staying with me for this long. I tried to keep it short. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and be sure to ring that notification bell. If you find this content useful, be sure to share it with your friends.